From the original, to the best game ever made, to the very best use of motion controls in gaming history, The Legend of Zelda has stood out to be one of the best, if not the very best franchise in all of gaming. Nintendo likes to take their time and only release the best quality Zelda games that they possibly can, which leaves us fans wanting more. No, scratch that, needing more. I put this list together for others like me who need a Zelda fix, but can't wait for Eiji Aonuma to squeeze another one out. It doesn't matter whether it's like 2D Zelda or like 3D Zelda, but what does matter is that it's good. This is the top 10 best games like The Legend of Zelda that aren't The Legend of Zelda.
Number 10.
Alundra is a very fun 2D action-adventure game that is very reminiscent of A Link to the Past. The graphics are pretty good, and there are plenty of puzzles to keep things interesting. The combat is very similar to Zelda, and you even have to cut down bushes to find collectibles. The power to enter people's dreams is a very cool mechanic, and this game should not be overlooked.
Number 9.
I couldn't make this list without including Okami. The game is an artistic marvel. The controls and gameplay will make you think of Zelda immediately, except for the paintbrush mechanic. You will automatically think of Twilight Princess when you take control of the wolf and explore the large game world.
Number 8.
Spiral Knights is a futuristic, free-to-play online dungeon crawler. Despite being 3D, it plays much like a 2D Zelda game. The main portion of the game takes place when you get a party of 4 together and you enter a level. You solve puzzles and you defeat enemies in order to collect loot and improve your character. There are cool bosses and many different weapons and attacks, making this a fun and approachable free-to-play online game that resembles Zelda.
Number 7.
3D Game Heroes is the ultimate tribute to the original Legend of Zelda. You could call it a parody, but that would not do it justice. While the game is funny, and is an obvious and direct carbon copy of Zelda, the art style is really, really well done, and around every corner you find a game that was designed with love and care. 3D Game Heroes is a very good tribute to The Legend of Zelda, but it loses points for its lack of originality.
Number 6.
Binding of Isaac has a similar layout and plays similarly to the 2D Legend of Zelda games. The game has that unmistakable Ed McMillan style, and the content of the story has dark and deep implications. The dungeon is randomly generated, so even though this game is hard, it never gets old. There are tons of cool enemies, and plenty of collectible items and upgrades, which really have a Zelda feel to them. If you're a fan of 2D Zelda, you'll love this game.
Number 5.
Anodyne is a simplistic, yet artistic and cinematic indie game. Armed with that 2D Zelda charm, it has many great puzzles and bosses, a large world map, and many dungeons to explore. There is a really good platforming element because unlike Zelda, your character can jump at any time. And there's a great use of RPG elements. Armed with a broom, you'll enjoy sweeping up the baddies in this great indie game.
Number 4.
Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy is a great 3D adventure platformer. You play as an Egyptian prince and a mummy. The exploration and general layout of the game screams Zelda. However, the platforming and combat is much more loose and open. This is one of the best hidden gems of the PS2 era, and it shouldn't be forgotten.
Number 3.
The Darksiders series is a great example of how games can borrow from The Legend of Zelda, but still be their own spectacular experience. Darksiders 1 and 2 have you taking the reins of war and death, 2 of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You have to traverse the world, gain new items and abilities, and use them to reach new areas and defeat new foes. Darksiders 2 even has a main field area that you ride through with a horse, just like Ocarina of Time. The Darksiders series has seen poor sales, despite being 2 amazing games that each have their own unique and epic experience. So make sure you check them out if you haven't yet. It's definitely worth it.
Number 2.
Secret of Mana is an action RPG made by Square for the SNES. It has a top-down perspective like Zelda and has a similar fighting style. The big difference is that you can deal hit point damage like an RPG. You can even level up and get better gear. You get to have multiple party members fighting on screen together, and while the AI is quite lackluster, if you play with some friends it can be an absolutely incredible experience. The world is enormous and very open to explore and have your own personal adventure. The story is great and the graphics are beautiful. This is the best game like 2D Zelda that exists. It is a must-play for lovers of classic 2D Zelda.
Number 1.
Beyond Good and Evil is an absolute masterpiece and is the best game that plays like Zelda. This time your hero in green is Jade, a photojournalist that lives in a world where people are oppressed and brainwashed by their leaders, the Alpha Section Defense Squad. Jade, as a journalist should be, is very skeptical of the things told to the masses by their controlling leaders, so she sets off on a grand adventure. Now this adventure is not necessarily to single-handedly overpower and defeat her enemy, but instead to gather evidence and inform the public in order to mobilize them and get them to join the cause. The game is full of intense action, incredible puzzles, and one of the funniest and memorable cast of characters that I can think of. I cannot recommend this game enough, and I would even go so far as to say that it is in every way as good as Zelda. And while it has its similarities, it is its own standalone work of art, and you have to play it. Well, that about does it for the top 10 games like The Legend of Zelda. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. I have more top 10s on the way. And in the meantime, here are some of my other top 10s to check out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.